Hi everyone, thank you for joining our Snagit preview event. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Jason.
And we're really excited to tell you about all the things that we've been working on, and we are going to be demoing a couple of these things, and then all of this stuff will be available to you at the beginning of July. Just a couple things before we get started. We do have a team of people who will be answering all of your questions, and they're going to be collecting a couple questions for us to answer live after the demo, and so we're going to be keeping an eye on those as well. To get started, I want to give you guys a little bit of background on kind of how the development works here at TechSmith. So we released a major release at the beginning or at the middle of May, and then we immediately began working on all of these things that we're going to show you today as well. We also have been getting a lot of feedback, and we have been listening to all of that feedback, and we are taking that feedback and we are going to be releasing another release coming up in the next couple months with all of those things that we've learned from in our major release. One of those things, probably one of the hot topics and things that people are really interested in, is we heard from a lot of our current users that they weren't necessarily really excited about the black background that we had, so it's difficult to say. So we will be releasing a lighter theme within the next couple months as well to make it easier on the eyes for some of those people who are having a little bit of difficulties with that black background. So with that, Jason, you want to jump into the demo?
Yep. Yeah, we'll jump right in, and I'm going to just take you through a few of the items that we're planning on releasing coming up pretty soon, and then if I run through something too quick, make sure to ask a question and we can re-demo if it's too quick for you. And then also I just want to give a little bit more context on the things that we choose. Sometimes it's a combination of feedback we get from a current release, a very recent release, and then also feedback from a long-standing, Snagit's been around for a long time, so we have a lot of these items that we've built up over the course of a number of years that we finally fit into the release schedule. So you'll see kind of a mix of a lot of those different things in this upcoming release. So the first thing I'm going to show you is related to choosing a perfect capture size. So in Snagit 12.1, if you start a capture, you choose your section, and then you mouse up, you're given the option to choose image and video. The other thing that's really allotted for people is the ability to tweak their capture. So if they didn't get it just right, you can grab the edges and drag it in to where so you can eliminate that border there. But then a lot of people we find out though is they need specific capture dimensions for their blog or their website or some training materials that they're making. So they might need this capture to be exactly 370 by 260. And so in the past, using your mouse to be really, really precise, that can work, but this just gives you a little bit more control over getting just the right pixel size for your capture. So that's kind of the first little tweak, and that's an example of one of those minor enhancements that we knew we wanted to get around to, we just didn't have a chance to fit it in the last release. So if I finish my capture, we come into the editor now, and the next thing I'm going to show you is similar to the request that Sarah mentioned earlier. It's about the dark background. So the first thing we want to take really quick action on is we heard a lot of customers saying, well, I need to see my capture on the destination, not necessarily just the dark background. So if they, again, want to put it in their blog or their document, they want to see it on that light background. So if you right-click on the the background area within the Snagit editor, you'll see this background color option. And we give you a few different default options, and then you can choose a custom color if you have a very specific background color you're looking for. But let's choose light gray. And so this could give you a view of what your capture is going to look like on a light gray background. So again, this is a really quick turnaround piece of feedback we wanted to react on because it's something that we thought was really pervasive, that a lot of people could really see a lot of value in this capability. So the next thing I was going to walk through is an example of one of those long-standing feature requests that we for whatever number of reasons, we just haven't implemented it yet. And what that is rotating objects. And this might seem kind of small, but even internally we've had tons and tons of great feedback on being able to rotate things within Snagit. Mm-hmm. So an example of that you could do today is with a callout. If you grab a callout and select the one you want, start typing presentation. you see this little green arrow, or this green little dot at the top. If you grab that and rotate, that's how you're going to rotate. So we had this for a few different objects, but we didn't have it for shapes, and we also didn't have it for images that you drag on top of one another. And so now, if you grab a shape, and you want to get an outline around this computer, but you want to add a little bit of interest to it, so you add just a little bit of a tilt to it. Same kind of thing with shapes here, that you can rotate those to get a little more interest in the capture that you're working with. One thing that we see a lot, though, is that people are working with multiple images in one document. And so if I have this kind of main image that I'm working with, and then I want to add a few different other captures on top of that. So if I drag these on top of this current capture, and then I want to, I'm making like a little marketing piece or a training piece. And I just want to show a little bit of interest in this image. If I grab these two individual images and rotate them, you can have a similar effect where you have that rotated image showing up on top of your capture. So it's something that we know people really, really have been wanting for a long time, and we're excited to finally have this out there. So great. So the next thing I'm going to move on to is sharing. So Snagit has always had this kind of mantra. It's really great at capturing, editing, and sharing. Those are kind of the three main things that we see customers using inside Snagit day in and day out. And so we're always trying to identify sharing destinations that are really, really popular, that lots of customers are using, and also that are maybe newer, the things that not everyone is hooked onto, but we know that the trends seem to be pointing in a certain direction. So we did this a lot with Google Drive. We've done it with various other sharing destinations where we know lots of our customers are there, and we want to be able to get them there as well. So the two we're going to talk about today are Dropbox and OneNote. And so Dropbox is one of those that it's popular in some communities, but a lot of people haven't heard of Dropbox. And so if you're not familiar with it, Dropbox is it's kind of like a hard drive in the cloud. It gives you a way to
store
share
all
your
your
file.
Photos, videos, documents, all that great stuff.
So yeah, we know that a lot of people are wanting to get their content out to their Dropbox folders, but unless you had it installed and on your local machine, it was a little harder to do from within Snagit. So what I'll show now is if you have the same capture we've been working with, and I'm on the Tools tab, I can click the Share button, and that'll give me all the options that I have available to me for sharing. You can also choose the Share menu up here at the top, and you'll see a similar set of options as well. So if I was to choose Dropbox here, I'll be prompted to give it a title. So if I want to call this marketing piece, and then I want to share it to the same folder that I share all my screenshots to. Or if you have a company folder that everyone's putting all their documents in together, you can select your folder right here. Or if you don't like to get prompted every time, you just want to have a date timestamp or some common name that you're always using, you can uncheck this box and you'll share right to that same folder. So now if I click upload, we'll go through a hopefully quick upload process. So the upload was pretty quick, and now this is a really interesting piece of sharing from within Snagit. It's something that doesn't often get a lot of interest in terms of people not knowing that it exists, but something we wanted to share today is this idea of sharing a link. And so a lot of people, they're used to embedding images. You might open up an email and say, insert image, and then you locate the image you want and you insert it. But there's some downsides to that. That a lot of people have limitations on their email sizes or their Exchange accounts, or they just want to keep their email short or their document short. So when you share to Dropbox and other things like Google Drive and screencast.com, we actually get back a link to the capture that you just shared. And so now if I was in, this is kind of a full example, but let's say this was an email and I wanted to paste the link right into the email. If I just paste the link, it's automatically on your clipboard. It'll take you to the capture that you just shared. So it's kind of a really powerful thing. A lot of people use it for instant message chats where you're just trying to get some piece of information to each other. So yeah, it's a really cool little feature that often gets overlooked, but we thought it was really worth sharing today. So.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of requests for an output to Dropbox for a while. We already have an Evernote output, and so we had a lot of people asking us for Dropbox. We actually just had one person ask us when we're going to have the OneDrive output. So we get constant requests for these outputs, and we do try to put them in there as quickly as possible. We already have a lot available as well, so you can always look on the Snagit accessories page and see what we have available and if it's anything that you use.
Yep. So the last thing we're going to show as far as demo goes is related to OneNote. So OneNote's another piece to the Office suite that traditionally it wasn't packaged up with things like Word and Microsoft PowerPoint and Excel, but now it is, and it comes along with that suite. And so we thought we've had OneNote 2007, 2010 for a while, but those are kind of they were add-ons to Office. But with OneNote 2013, we had a lot of requests where people are used to using OneNote and they need to get their captures quickly from Snagit into their OneNote document or OneNote note. So same kind of concept as far as sharing goes. Under the Shared tab or the Tools menu, you can choose Share and then OneNote, and you'll get a little notification just saying that it's been shared locally to your OneNote client. So if I click that, again, you'll see the same capture that we just took plopped into the note that you had open. And so there's a few different options. So if you have a certain position you want the capture inserted at, or if you just want it inserted at the current place of the cursor, Snagit will automatically place that in for you, and you can go on your way.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
So a couple other things that we're going to be putting out with this release that we're not going to demo today. On the Mac side, we're going to add system audio to your video captures. So we've had that available on the Windows side, but we're also adding that on the Mac side. And then we're also adding flatten all to the Mac side as well. That's been a big request and a great feature on the Windows side. So that will be coming out with this release. And then also, once again, not in this release, but within the next couple months. I know we just had a question, a ballpark estimate for when the lighter theme will be available, and that's probably a couple months away. But once we have a better idea of what that date will be, we will let you know. But again, we'll have that within our next release. We'll have a lighter color scheme to the background for those people who prefer that.
Yeah, with most features that we implement, we try to get a good feel for how much work it's going to be as we're working on it, and so that we can kind of forecast out when we think we're going to be able to release. At this point, we're about a week into the development of that light theme. So we're still pretty early in on that, but definitely making lots of progress on it. I did want to show a quick mock-up of something the designers put together. So this is a view of what the light theme could look like. As far as the exact white color, gray color that we're going to choose, we're still doing lots of iterations on that right now to make sure we get it to meet the needs of the requests that we were hearing, which was something that's easier on the eyes, easier to adjust to, and more accessible for you. But this is kind of a view of it. You can see that the overall window is obviously a lot lighter than it is in the current version of Snagit. And then we had to adjust all the sub-windows and menus and items underneath the top level of the interface. So this just gives you an idea of what we're thinking. Yep. And it'd be great to hear feedback if it's too light, if it's if there's a certain contrast that you're looking for. All that kind of information is really good feedback. Yep.
Great. So we've got, I think, about 15 minutes left for questions. So I'm going to go to our little document here and pull out some questions for us. So one question we have is, how can I customize the stamps palette to show my most frequently used stamps at the top?
Short answer is the ability to rearrange. Let me 1 second. Live demo.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. I was actually clicking the screenshot. That was awesome. Quick answer is there's not an easy way to get your most used stamps to the top of the list right now. It is something we have been talking about as far as how to rearrange your most favorite items so that they're more accessible to you. But basically the short answer is and there may be other gurus, Snagit gurus, that have sneaky workarounds to get that to happen. But out of the box, the straightforward interface, there's not a lot of easy ways to organize them. You can organize the folders, the categories of your stamps, so that they will show up in certain locations, but the stamps within the main package, those are basically just ordered by file name, and there isn't currently a way to rearrange them on Windows. On Mac, there is a way to rearrange some of the items that you have in your gallery, so that the most important ones are at the top.
All right, so what about OneDrive for Business? I know we kind of hit on it. We probably didn't really answer your question there before, but just like we get a lot of questions about outputs and requests for those, and we can't do all of these outputs at once. We would love to. We'd love to put them out there as quickly as possible, but again, we put them on the list of all the things that we want to accomplish, and we also weigh it with a lot of other feature requests that we're trying to do. Right now, we did just put out Dropbox and OneNote, and OneDrive is on the list, but hopefully we'll get to it in the next couple months, but probably won't be coming out in the next release.
Yeah, what we can say though is that TechSmith is, we have lots and lots of customers that work in the enterprise and work in the business world, in addition to people that use Snagit and TechSmith products for personal use. So we are definitely aware of how pervasive working with Microsoft's kind of suite of services is. So I'd say the answer is not so much a Snagit one, it's more of a TechSmith perspective on Microsoft in the enterprise and Microsoft's very important role in the enterprise too. So I think, like Sarah said, it's something that's very heavily weighted right now within TechSmith.
Yep. So another question we have is, I just want to see my folder view restored. Any thoughts on that? Do you want to hit on that one?
Sure. So when we removed the option to view a folder tree, the thought process in going into that was, it was really a feature that had been ported over from very early versions of Snagit. And when Snagit was made up of lots of different sub-applications, when version 9 came out, we took a lot of those and plopped them into one kind of connected application. And so a lot of that work was, essentially porting over existing functionality. What we did find, though, is that we did have extensive usage tracking within the product to understand how people are using the product, and we tried to identify things that had very, very low usage, while at the same time weren't necessarily adding to the core value of the product. And the folder tree was an example of one of those where we knew some customers were using it, absolutely, so it wasn't that the usage was zero. We're also trying to look at items that, if we were to redesign Snagit over again, which items would we be would be in the product because they absolutely had to be in there because they're core to our functionality, versus items that historically were things that everyone was doing. So everyone had a folder tree in their product to access files. With Windows Explorer being more common for people's use, our thought is if people want to access their files, choosing file open and choosing from a folder is essentially the same. What we did identify after removing that, though, was that the number of people that were accessing their snag files, the thumbnails within snag files, was pervasive. That was a problem that we were solving that we're no longer solving. So that work in particular is work that we will be tackling, is the ability to preview a snag thumbnail, which is the proprietary file format that you can keep snag files around in. And so that is a problem we want to solve. But adding the folder tree back in, it's one of those things where we don't think it's value that Snagit is adding over top of what the operating system is already given. So we wanted to focus on what our core competencies are, and that's more around the screen capture front.
Yep.
So long answer, but
yeah.
The short answer is the folder tree in its current mode is not something we're going to be adding back in. But the problems that we are solving with that, hopefully we'll be adding in soon.
Yep. So another question we have here, are there changes to the interface on the Mac version? So we recently came out with a few tweaks to the interface in our major release in May, and we are not going to be coming out with a light version for the Mac. We haven't gotten a lot of feedback. The Mac version has always had a dark background, and we haven't gotten any or very, very little feedback about how that has interrupted some workflows. So right now we do not currently have any plans to add any interface changes to the Mac version.
Yeah, and the one exception to that is only that some of you may have heard about Yosemite being announced. Mm-hmm. They do have a dark and a light mode, and so that might be something where we reevaluate what our plans are based on what the operating system is providing to you. So I think with anything that we decide, so to speak, we are an iterative company. We don't make decisions and then kind of stick our heads in the sand and stick with them even if they're incorrect. So yeah. I think as the environment changes, we change our minds sometimes. And and again, it's not just the environmental. I mean, it's listening to the customer. It's listening to what problems we need to be solving. So
that's why we always say it's not in our plans right now instead of ever, because we want to make sure that as things change, that we can change as well.
Yep.
All right, so we have another question here. Love the capability to post to Facebook. Would love to see some Microsoft Office 365/SharePoint picture library integration. So that is another thing that is on our list. It is a high priority across TechSmith, so we know that SharePoint integration is really important. While I don't have a date for you right now, that is something that we're looking at, and we're trying to figure out how quickly we can integrate and how we can actually work better with SharePoint and Microsoft Office.
Yeah, so if you have suggestions for how we can integrate with SharePoint or with Office 365, we are in the research mode. We're trying to understand. Oftentimes we hear people say, I need this integration, but we truly want to understand what you're trying to do so that we don't make something that doesn't really fit what you need. And so if you have ideas, feedback, insights that you could share with us, that'd be great, because we always are looking for more kind of market input and how to solve these problems.
Yep. So we have another question that's kind of along that vein. They're looking for iCloud Drive sharing within Snagit. Do you want to tell them where that is on our pipeline?
It really isn't currently. That's not on in the near term anyway. It's not something we've talked about. But again, lots of announcements from Apple very recently. So I know that TechSmith as a whole has been talking about what Apple's doing and what the recent announcement means to us, especially from a cloud perspective, because we have a number of different interactions with different cloud services, and iCloud, they're making a very big push for their service as well. Yeah. So with any major technology shift, we always are talking about how that affects what we're doing. So in terms of just Snagit, it's not something we've talked about for a very near-term work, but like Sarah said, it's relatively open at this point for our cloud integrations.
Yep. Yeah, we're always looking to see how we can work better with the software and the applications that our customers are working with. So we have a really long list of things we want to do, and things just seem to bubble up with how many people are asking for them, or how crucial it is to some of the other things that we're trying to do across TechSmith. All right, so I've a couple of questions. When will this be released? Well, it's going to be early July. It's probably going to be around July 8th. I don't want to give you that's not set in stone, just in case something crazy happens, but it will be around that timeline.
Yep, pretty soon after July 4th.
Yeah.
We usually have about a 2-week window in between when development actually finishes and when we release, and we're basically in that window right now, where we're going through final testing and final kind of approval to make sure everything is in a good state. So
yep, we just want to make sure that everything's working well, and we put out the best version we can possibly do for you guys.
But going forward, we do have plans to keep these relatively rapid updates available. So when we throw out 2 months, we don't mean, well, maybe 2 to 6 months. No, we mean we're going to be on a pretty continual cadence of getting new capabilities out inside Snagit and making sure that we're responsive to the feedback that we're getting, instead of kind of going into radio silence mode and making sure we're staying current with what we're hearing from customers.
Exactly. I think that's what's really kind of increased our development time, or decreased our development time, is that we want to get these releases out quickly, especially based on feedback. We don't want to have everybody clamoring for something and then make them wait 6 months to be able to get it. So we're trying to move a little bit faster on our side. Any chance to share on Facebook to Snagit? Is that from, I'm guessing that's from Facebook to Snagit, or is that from Snagit to Facebook? I'm not quite sure where that question is, so maybe we'll ask another one. Can I install Snagit on my iPhone? No, we currently don't actually have a Snagit app on the iPhone. We do have an app called Fuse available on the iPhone, and what you can do there is you can take screenshots with your phone, and or you can take pictures or videos, and then you can use that app to directly import to Snagit on the Mac or on the Windows side, and you can also use that to import to Camtasia as well if you want to do anything with it there.
Yeah, we are always trying to understand what exactly people need from a Snagit on a mobile device or a tablet. We often have heard just put Snagit on the iPad or put Snagit on mobile, and we want to make sure we're leveraging the power of that technology.
Sorry about that, guys. Looks like we had a little bit of an overload, so I guess we're really popular today for some reason. One final question before we let you guys go, we don't want to take up too much of your time, is can you tell us why the copy all icon was moved to a different position in the app? Just explain what our reasoning was there. Do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, so the change for the copy all button was kind of multifaceted. The first one was we had a problem inside Snagit where when someone was first coming into the product, they were feeling overwhelmed. They weren't exactly sure what they should be doing first, what the point of Snagit was in certain cases. And so we were trying to understand how to make that first experience smoother, less intimidating, less overwhelming. The general look of the ribbon, the thing at the top, which has all the different icons at the top, we're trying to maintain a smooth visibility of that UI, and we felt that the copy clipboard section was awkward where it was for that purpose. Whereas we had things like sharing and copying and sending to different places that were all over on the right side of the interface. So we wanted to put the items related to getting something out of Snagit into one place. And so we definitely took a bit of a risk because we knew that there were a lot of customers used to how the copy button worked and where it was in the past. But we also wanted to try to better understand how to make Snagit less intimidating.
Mm-hmm. With that, I think we're almost finished, but I just wanted to remind everybody if you have any other questions that we weren't able to answer here, feel free to tweet us, Facebook message us, or reach out at feedback.techsmith.com. We really appreciate your time today. We hope this was useful. Hope you're excited about the stuff that we're coming out with. Keep in touch with us. We'll be doing more of these as the months go by and let you know some of the other things that we're coming out with in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everybody.